Greetings, game designers. In this video, we're going to teach you how to put the leaves onto our tree here. This is kind of what it looks like after it is done. Um, so let's take some time to kind of see, how it generally looks, and maybe I could do a better job of doing it, so I can kind of plan ahead and see what I could have done better. Okay. Maybe one critique that I have is that if I could do it again, which I will, is that the leaves could be bigger. So the tree doesn't look as filled as I would like. Like if I wanted more, make it more bushy, if I had made the leaves a little bit more bigger, um, it would have covered more and the tree would look more full. Secondly, you can see on some of the sides of the trees, I didn't really do a good job of changing the orientation. So you could still kind of see that I copied and pasted several times because the pattern kind of repeats itself. And we're going to try to avoid that on ours. Okay. So let's go ahead and delete all of this and kind of start off where you guys were. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go down here and delete all this. Obviously, you don't have it, so you need to do this part. But you can see here that even on my tree, it doesn't look very thick. I have 299 leaves and sub branches, right? 299. So that's a lot of objects, right? Um, but let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hit delete. Okay. So when we last left off, we should have a basic tree with branches and a little bit of sub branches here. So let's go ahead and do the first thing, and let's go ahead and apply the material. So the great part about Vectory is that it has pre-made libraries, um, under the library tab, and we can go ahead and find something we like. So let's go ahead. I'm going to click on wood. And the problem with wood is that some of the woods, like I'm going to show you one of these, for example, some of these woods are not for actual trees. Some of this wood is for like the grain on like lumber wood, not actual like tree bark wood. So you kind of have to find the right one. I think some of the ones down here are better suited. So let's try that one, and that one looks a little bit more real. It has a little bit of texture already pre-built in, and you can see that it has like bark and like indented points. So I'm gonna go with that. Okay. So we got our our material onto our tree, and let's go ahead um, and download the leaves. So the leaves are the exact same one that we had from our class before. So let's go ahead and cover how to do that. So you guys, I'm gonna have it reposted for you guys up here into today's section. But since I haven't done that yet, I'm gonna have to go find uh, the leaves that I did last time. So we did the Homer project. So here, material 5 and support. So we had branches and leaves. We're gonna use the exact same one. So here are the branches and leaves. For you guys, make sure you guys remember to download it. You gotta click on the triple dot, open in a new window, and then you can click on the download button right here. For you guys, it's gonna download into your downloads folder. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to Vectory, and you can just go ahead and import it. So go back to the Object tab. There's an import button on the far right side of the Object tab. We're gonna click on Import. We're gonna click Choose File, and we're gonna go find the download. So it should be under downloads. I downloaded it twice. You click here, branches and leaves, and there you have it. It's going to have the leaves here that we created. Okay, so let's go ahead and adjust the size of this thing and check. Let's move our camera around and kind of check that it has lighting on both sides. So you can see right here that it's a little bit dark on one of the sides. Let's see if we can fix that real quick. So I'm going to click on, first thing I'm going to click on is opacity from color. And by clicking that, I actually have it go real dark. Let's see if it allows me to change. Nope, actually I don't want that. Let's go cast shadows. Off, yeah. So we're going to collect shadows. Go ahead and click off on collect shadows. Otherwise, it will have shadows, which may be a good thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll change it later and see if we like it that it casts shadows when because trees do provide shades. Okay. The next thing we definitely got to change is the size. So this thing is ginormous. So let's go ahead and click on the scale tool and scale it down. Let's go ahead and move it. Let's see. So remember, you can see right here that this is the front of the tree. So that's kind of where we're going to do most of our work. So I'm going to kind of move it here. I'm going to use the rotate tool and rotate it. Okay. Now I'm going to actually go here and be more precise. Click on the transformation window and make it 180 degrees. Okay. And let's go ahead and take a look at it a little bit more closely. Okay. What I'm going to do is change the number of segments. So if you click on these segments right here, you can see that it has a 5 by 5 sections, which is 25 faces on each side. So remember what we did inside the other class. We only need a little bit. So I'm actually going to change it down to just 2 sections. So 2 sections, again, will give us 3 points, enough to just give it some depth. So that's what we're going to do now. So once you're done with changing the number of subsections to 2, not 1, 2, okay, and turning off the shadow, we're going to go ahead and edit the geometry. So once you're done with the number of segments and you have some of the settings and sizes that you like, go ahead and click Convert to Geometry. And once you convert to geometry, you're again allowed to, in Vectory, go in there and change the actual vertices. So we're going to click on vertex mode right here. Again, this is vertex mode, edge mode, and face mode. We're going to click on the edge mode here, and we're going to click on some of the edges to give it some depth. So this is where I'm going to like pivot, right? It'll be the branch of the tree. So I'm going to go here and kind of move it up a little bit, kind of give it a depth. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side, just a little bit, and this side just a little bit. And what this does, again, is create a little bit of depth for our tree. And for the last part, I'm going to give it a little bit of depth here. So from the side view, you'll see some depth to the trees. It looks sort of like that. It kind of creates kind of like a little bit of a shield or a fan, kind of give it a little bit of shade, a little bit of depth perception. Maybe I'm actually going to move this one a little bit to the left. It'll probably distort the image just a little bit, but that's fine. So I'm going to move it out so that there's a little bit of more depth perception. So you can look from the side, you can see like, the front and the whatnot. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the object mode and actually see what this looks like now. So now from the object side, it looks a little bit like that. Okay, again, if you hit A, you can center your screen on the object. So there's a way to center the screen of the object. So from the side, I'll see some depth like that. From this side, you'll see, what it'll look like if you see it from different angles. So just to give it so that it doesn't look relatively flat when we make this thing. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to put this onto our tree. So you can use local gizmo, you can use the global gizmos. I recommend the global gizmo because it helps us kind of keep things oriented to the world and not just the object. Okay, and here's the most important part is how do you move the pivot? So you see right here, if I rotate the tree or the branches, it'll rotate from the center, and that's not what I want. Okay, I want to rotate from the pivot point, this little part right here where it attaches to the tree. This will make my life dramatically easier when I'm making duplicates of this branch. So to move the pivot, hold right click on the pivot and move it like this. Okay, so what I did was, again, I hold right click. So if you left click it, it will just click on the thing and it will give you like a gizmo. But if you hold the right click, so I'm gonna go back to the branch, hold the right click and drag, it will let you move the pivot. So I'm gonna move the pivot over here. Now, that's not probably not accurate. You can see if I move my camera, it's not where I thought it would be. So I recommend is that you kind of use the 2D views. You see how I move my camera? Using the left click drag, it moves the camera. Okay. And if you move it to about where it's gonna like flatten out, it's gonna automatically snap to one of the two planes. So we're going to go ahead and use these gizmos to kind of move this gizmo to kind of move it where we want. Hold right click and it moves it right where we want right there. And then I'm going to go to this view. And if you go to the top, kind of the top view, it's going to snap. Hold the right click and move it just where the leaves is. So now my pivot is in the proper place. And now I can create and duplicate a whole bunch of these things and start making the tree. So I'm only going to make about, because I don't want to bore you with repetition, I'm only going to make about the quarter of the tree. So maybe I'll just do one sub branch here and maybe one leaf over here to kind of get you guys the technique that you need to do. But it's basically once you do it once or a few times, you start getting the hang of it. You're not going to need to redo it a whole bunch. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. In Maya, we had this really cool tool called Snap to Object. And unfortunately, inside of Vector, we don't have those same tools. So some of you might think that, oh man, that sucks. And some of you might actually like it because it simplifies things. We're just going to use, the normal way of moving objects and not having it snap so it doesn't confuse us. So let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to start making the branches and leaves off of this point. So I'm going to grab it. I'm going to move it over here. Okay, so on my screen, it looks like it's right on that little branch where I want it. But let me show you as I move my camera how off I am, right? You can see that I'm very off. I intended to put it right here. It's way over here. So again, the best way to do this is to use your planes. So I'm going to use this side view plane right here. And I'm going to move my camera. Okay. And again, I think if you just get it right, it will snap to one of the planes view. If not, I'm just going to go and use the top view. You can see that it automatically kind of adjusts my camera. Okay, so I'm going to use the plane view here, and I'm going to move it right on top where I want it. Okay, again, this top view will help me make sure that it's in the correct X, Y, Z, but I still have to move my camera and move it down to the exact point that I want. So right there. Okay, so just like before, once you kind of got the first one that you want located, and right now it's relatively vertical, which is not what I want. Um, I'm going to duplicate it 3 times, and then I'm going to use it to move all 3 of them and start making fans. Okay, so this is the fan technique. I think that one works the best. So again, I have the object selected. I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to duplicate another one. And the great part duplicating another one is that it keeps the same pivot. So I'm going to pivot it about 90 degrees. And I'm going to create another Control D, create another duplicate. And I think you know what? I'm just going to actually make 5. Instead of a fan of 3, I'm going to make a fan of 5. I'm going to control duplicate, and I'm going to use the rotate tool and rotate another one right here. Control D again. Again, it's not much more work to duplicate something that you already have. Control D again, and I'm going to have 5. Instead of a fan of 3, I'll make a fan of 5, just to really give it a lot of leaves, so that when I duplicate all 5 of these, it's going to give me some volume. So once I have like all these 5 kind of forming a fan, I'm going to take all 5, and you're going to have to hold hold shift to select all 5. And I'm going to kind of move it down a little bit. Okay. And this kind of creates a little fan here. And I'm going to keep on duplicating this. But before I duplicate another 5, kind of figure out what you can do to give it more depth perception so it doesn't look so flat, right? So maybe if I was not as lazy, maybe what I'll do is I'll actually go into each one and rotate them a little bit forwards or backwards, okay? So that there's more depth perception to each one before I duplicate. So it's kind of important to duplicate, or before you duplicate, really figure out how to give it some variance and some depth perception so that it doesn't look all the same, or it doesn't look like it's too flat, to give it some depth perception again. So, oops, not scale. Let's go ahead and use one of these widgets here, kind of turn it up a little bit, kind of turn it sideways, kind of give it some depth here. Okay. and maybe click on the last one. I think I want to rotate it this way and maybe down, something like that. Okay. So I kind of give myself a little bit more depth perception. And remember what I told you when we first did this inside Maya, is that basically the more leaves you have, the more real it looks. Okay. So I'm going to kind of take all these 5 and let's see. I'm actually going to try this. I don't know if it actually will work. Forgive me if we decide it's not what we're going to do. I'm going to try to group it and let's see if it keeps the same pivot. So I'm going to group these and it relocates the pivot, which is not what I want. So I'm going to use the control. So I'm going to kind of go to top view now. Okay, back to top view. Hit A if you want to center it. Let's go to top view. Okay, I'm going to use and hold down right click to move the pivot. I'm going to move the pivot to this point right here on the tree. I'm going to go to the side view and make sure that it's where I want it. So I'm going to use this. Oops. Hold right click. I think I'm at plain view. Nope, not yet. Trying to get the snap there. I'm going to hold right click and move it upward. And it looks like I just have the pivot where I want it. Again, hit A if you want to look at it from the top view. Move it there. Yep, and I have the pivot just where I want it. Okay, so I created this group of 5 branches, and now I'm going to start duplicating them and see if this will make my life easier. So I'm going to Control D, duplicate the entire group. I have a new group, and let's see if I could go ahead and rotate it up and kind of give it a random rotation to the side, right? And that creates more bunches. And I'm going to create a duplicate again. So I'm duplicating the entire group. I'm going to rotate it kind of the other way and kind of move it upward as well. And again, it all has the same pivot, but it gives me a little bit more volume and variety and randomness. You can use kind of different side profiles here, kind of give it a little bit more. Oops, don't use the move. You can change the pivot. So kind of give it a little bit more view like that, something like this. Let's go something like that. Okay. And again, there's no rhyme or reason to exactly how you're going to do it. There's no one way of doing it. But again, it looks like if you move the pivot of the entire group, you can duplicate groups now. So you can kind of shrink and collapse your groups. So maybe it's, now that we're getting here, how about we just kind of copy a bunch of groups? So I just copy all 3 of these groups here, hold shift, control D, all 3 of them, and it creates a whole nother one. So I'm going to put one up here. So kind of up on the branch a little bit, but not too far away. So I can see that from the top view, I have the right pivot. But if I go to the side view, make sure that my up and down is kind of good right there, right? And then again, give it a rotation, rotate it really like dramatically, like let's say like that, right? And this will give it some more depth perception there. And I have, again, 3 groups selected here. And I can, again, go ahead and duplicate these 3 again. So this kind of come to part where you're just going to repeat the same process. So I'm going to duplicate again, Control D. It's going to create a whole nother 3. I'm going to rotate it this way to this side, give it some random rotation. Again, the reason is because you don't want repeating patterns. So when they see it from afar, they go, oh, that looks pretty real, or, you know, um, it doesn't look like it's repeating. So kind of give it, some rotation like that, some really depth. Give it some depth from this side, and rinse and repeat. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple more here, all the way to this side. Kind of finish off this one little sub branch. So I'm gonna hit Control D again. I'm gonna use my top view, kind of snap it. It snaps to the top view here. Then I'm gonna just hold down the pivot and kind of move the entire thing over here to this point. Okay. Again, the most important part about this whole duplicating process is that you have to rotate your camera and see how far off you are on the other plane. So you can see my point is to try to get to this little tip, but I'm kind of way down, but I'm perfectly aligned in the XY plane. So the only thing I need to do is move the Z plane up, and I kind of get where I want. Okay. So, okay, let's kind of look at the angle view here and kind of see what perspective I'm dealing with. So this one was rotated a lot, so maybe I'm gonna reduce that rotation down a little bit. Kind of see it from the side here and kind of rotate it down and up. I don't know, actually kind of like that. Gives it kind of figure out where to fan. Okay, and I want to duplicate that. Okay, and now rotate it a little bit more, kind of give it more depth here. Okay, and maybe one Control D again, one more, and I can maybe make another duplicate and kind of go up to give it that height. Okay, so and there you go. It starts to come to life. Maybe I want to do one more duplicate because why not? Just Control D, right? Control D and move, and really create this full-on tree and whatnot. So okay, so I kind of made it to their corner. So maybe I'll put one more right here. No, actually I don't even need it. I'll maybe put a little bit more to the side right here, Control D. And I'm gonna move another one over here to this side. Again, this is not a good way of looking at it. The best way to look at it is from the top view first. You can see that I'm not even on my tree, my pivot here. I'm gonna move it to the tree. Then I'm gonna kind of look at it from a perspective, an angled perspective, to kind of see all three planes and move it down. Okay, and kind of see where my fan is kind of fanning out. You can see using the borders here that where its silhouette is and how it's fanned out. So I'm going to kind of fan it that way, kind of fan it down a little bit, and there you go. So I kind of finished one corner of my tree, um, and as soon as I start getting more branches out here and whatnot, it's going to look more and more full because obviously I'm only doing like one branch here. Once I get this part, and this part, it'll start to look like a real tree. Okay, so and I think I did a better job of randomizing it a little bit, so some of the branches don't look the same as much as others. Okay, so I'm just gonna start on one more tip over here. So again, I'm on my front view right now. If I hit Control D, I'm gonna find the pivot and move everything over to this side. And now I'm gonna start working on this side of the tree. So now, obviously, my pivot is not in the right place. You can see that it's like in the middle space. So I'm gonna kind of use my top view now. Hit A to kind of center my view. Okay. And my goal was actually to get to this tip, but you can see how off I was. So I'm going to go ahead and move it over here, hit A again to recenter, kind of get it all the way on that little tip right there, and then go to my side view and see that I'm on the proper Z axis. Looks like am I on that little tip? Yeah, I'm on the little tip. Great. So, so this one I'm just going to kind of rotate down, kind of reset my orientation. Um, use my angled view here, kind of rotate it down a little bit lower like that. And I'm going to continue this process of duplicating and creating. So my first one, I kind of want to aim down. I'm going to Control D, kind of make one go up, and then kind of rotate it. Otherwise, it's going to look like that repeating pattern again. Kind of change the slope and whatnot. One more duplicate, and I will finish up the video. Rotate again. Rotate again. And rotate again, something like that. And again, I recommend that even if you guys are using your Chromebooks, because that's all the device that you guys have, that you know, find a old mouse or whatever mouse you have lying around, or if you're rich, go buy one on Amazon, and um, and attach it to your Chromebook, and it really makes modeling a lot easier because doing it with that mouse pad, that touchpad it's got to be annoying. So you can see here, I just made 3 duplicates, and you can see how real it starts to look just by doing the very tip of this. And again, you're going to do it on various points on your tree. And like I said, the more you do, the more realistic it looks. Okay. So, you know, you can see here from here, I'm already created how many groups? How many groups of 5? I did like, gosh, I'm already at like 31 groups of 5. So that's already like 150 of these, right? or 34 groups of 5. That's like 175 or something, right? But the more you do, the more realistic it looks. I want to not bore you with repeating this process to complete the entire tree. You guys can do that. So good luck. I'm gonna give you guys 2 days to work on this. So you're gonna work on it today on Thursday, and you'll work it again on Monday. Um, so good luck to that. Okay. All right. See you guys.